I am in the Chirpy Card Maker, am I not? There we go. Found me. Okay, speakers are off. Hi, Linda. Hi, Vesta. Hope everyone is doing well this morning. Thank you for spending an hour with me. Oh my goodness, so many. Hi, Sharon and Holly. Hi, Ann. Hope everyone is doing well. I have such a fun quilt block to share with you. I was having so much fun with it yesterday that I am up to 10 cards. And it's like once you get started, you want to try this quilt block with all of your designer series paper. We're gonna learn it by using monochromatic shades. And then when you get the feel of it, and of course you can always change the colors around. That's the fun of playing, because just changing the color around gives your quilt block a whole different look and a different feel. So just because you make it one way doesn't mean you have to follow any rules. There are no rules. Just take those same colors and move them around and see how different your quilt block looks and feels, okay? But we're gonna do some monochromatic today. It might have been a little vague in the post from yesterday. I had a photo with 3 larger pieces of cardstock. I had Mossy Meadow, Old Olive, and Soft Seafoam. And then I had the pieces that you need underneath. Those big squares were just larger swatches so that you could see the color. And then also what I shared with you is, if you're not sure, especially if you've got 2 colors that to your eye kind of look similar, as in like value or something like that, take a picture, a colored picture. Well, you could set your camera to black and white too. But when, if you take a picture and you go into your editing software and you go to your filters and you change it to black and white, you get your black and you get your grays, you get all those shades, and it will show you which one is your light, which one's your medium, and which one is your dark. So if you're not sure, you got 2 colors that you're not sure which one is which, take a picture, change it to black and white, and that photo will show you which one is your light, which one is your medium, and which one is your dark. Okay? So you didn't need those big pieces. That was just a bigger swatch so that you could see what I was using. We're working with 1/2-inch squares, which we are going to cut into triangles. And yes, we have a 1/4-inch square. Please don't get too upset when we have to cut those in half diagonally too for half square triangles. As I'm explaining it, if that piece is too little for you to work with, you can still make the quilt block. You just have a different variation of it. But I promise you, if you try, it is going to be a wow card. Okay? But know that you don't have to do it. And then at the end, I have some examples, and I added some more pieces as an option that really changed the block. Now, all of that information will be in a PDF that will drop this weekend. So you can write the information down, but know that it will be in the PDF so that you have some extra ways that you can step up or change this one quilt block even more. But you are going to love it, and I am so excited. One more thing before we get going. Celebration ends tomorrow. So if there's, Stampin' Up! Moved a lot of current product over to that, the celebration freebies. And the bee punch, I believe, is a part of that. But when we turn the camera around, I'm going to show you what I made with the bee punch a couple of days ago. But there's a lot more shopping you can do for celebration items. But tomorrow's the last day, like the end of the day is celebration's over. So get those freebies while you can. Hi, Betty. I'm going to flip the camera around, and while I'm doing that, please greet each other, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's move this. Okay, everybody close your eyes. Just in case this motion makes you a little dizzy, I kind of go fast. Okay, and I want to zoom in a little bit. Not that much. Maybe like that. We'll see how this works getting started. Let's see what it looks like on the computer. Oh, not bad. Not bad at all. So I'm going to keep this right beside me. I'll try really hard to keep up with comments or questions. Hi, Linda and Sherry, Louise, Tony. Hey, Tony, you're back. Tony had some hand surgery done this morning, so let's all wish her a speedy recovery. I call her Wonder Woman, so I'm sure she's going to heal rather quickly because that woman's got way too much to do. She can't be kept down. Hi, Jasmine and Helene. Hi, Anne and Linda and Diane, everybody. Thank you for being here. Okay, let me show you first that bee punch that I was on the phone with a friend of mine, and we were figuring out, she actually just rejoined my team because she likes to just get a discount. She doesn't want to do anything else, but we were trying to figure out doing the joining process. And while I was playing around, I had my bee punch. So there's so many cool things that you can do with this punch. It's not just to make a bee. So this is the underside of the punch. You could use the bee's body for a word bubble. If you're not making a bee, think of other things that you can use this for. So a word bubble is really, really nice to have on hand. It's got a small heart, and then it's got a larger heart. Well, when I was looking at this shape right here, I saw a bird. And why it took me over a year to see a bird, I don't know. But I thought, oh, his stinger could be his beak. So what I did was I made this little chirpy doodle. So his body is, what you would think of a word bubble is actually the body. Now I did color in his beak so that you could see that it's the beak of the bird. I used the small heart for its tail feathers. And then this is that larger heart, but I just folded it in half to create the wing, and you could put a mini glue dot underneath there to give it a 2D look, because putting that dimensional on the inside is going to make it stick up a little bit, giving a 2D effect. But we got a little chirpy doodle, and I colored the belly only because I didn't have time to really play, but I wanted to distinguish the body a little bit more. But if you've got the bee punch, maybe you want to make some little birds for your card. Someone asked about making this a fish, and if you move this little heart back in to where this would just be the fish lips like that, you could totally find a way to make a little fish out of this punch too. But I just wanted to share that with you because it was just like, oh my gosh, look what just happened. But why did it take me so long to come up with that? So, hi, Lori. Hi, Julie. Okay, So let's get to today's project. I'm going to be using the low profile dots for a little bling. My sentiment is coming from, this is an online exclusive. And if you're looking for a stamp set that you want to create a little button for the back of your cards, where you can sign your card that you made it, or create something on the back of your card. These are really nice little like happiness inside, or handcrafted by. Crafted with you in mind. Stamp that across the back of your card. That would be really, really sweet. If you're selling your cards, you want to put the Stampin' Up logo somewhere on the card. So these are nice and tiny. You can put them in a conspicuous place. But I'm using just to brighten your day. So I just wanted to bring attention to this stamp set here. And then I am using, it's on my other table. I'm using the third smallest stitched circle die. It measures about 1.75 inches. If you don't have a die, but you have the 1.75 inch circle punch, that works too. And I'm using the Floral Delight Designer Series paper. So the first thing I did was I chose what paper I wanted to use. And then looking at this paper, excuse me, I decided to bring out the greens. So I see Mossy Meadow, I see Old Olive, and I see just a faint touch of what could be soft seafoam. You can use any greens. Make sure that they work well with the paper that you brought. But, you know, soft seafoam isn't even mentioned in the suggested colors. But a lot of times, if you look at the Designer Series paper, you will find colors that aren't listed on the back of the label on the Designer Series paper. So that's why I chose my greens. Okay, I've got a piece here for the back. Now this is optional. You know, I like to put some Designer Series paper on the back of my quilt cards, and I did emboss this with the same folder that I am going to emboss my quilt block, which is a Distressed Tile 3D embossing folder. And this is this really cute gingham. For the inside, there is this pattern that's very light. You could actually still stamp on this. I don't put a greeting a lot of times in the cards that I make because I'm waiting for what the situation is that I'm sending that for. So I can either stamp a future greeting, and if I mess up and this is already glued down, well then I'll restamp that sentiment and I'll punch it out with a label punch, and I will cover up my mistake. So just because it's glued down, if you make a mistake, there are ways to get around that. Or just keep this piece with your card. Don't adhere it to the inside, and then finish it when you know what the sentiment or the situation is, the reason why you are sending that card. Betty says, I didn't have the bee punch, but did order it right away. You know, the word bubble alone is worth having that punch. And I have read that, I haven't tried it myself, there's some people that have said that the bee punch doesn't work with the scrapbooking bee stamp set, which comes with dies now. But I have heard people say, yes, it does. I don't know. I haven't tried it. But if it does work, wow, what a combo of products to have, you know, so that you can utilize it any way that you want to. Okay. This is that sentiment, just to brighten your day. And then I cut it out with that circle die. Of course, I have my button for the back. And let's talk about, before we get to the grid for our quilt block. This is what I was talking about earlier. I had shared these 3 swatches just so that you had a bigger view of them. You don't need these. I just thought that showing you these little tiny 1/2-inch squares might not give you the full effect. Now here I can pretty much just tell in color which is my light, my medium, and my dark. But I'm going to show you some examples of other cards that I made where my light and my medium were very close. I still used them, but I needed to know where to place them. So that was that. And then we're working with 1/2-inch squares and 1/4-inch squares. Okay, so you needed 4 light, 4 medium, 4 dark, all a 1/2-inch, and then in the dark you also needed 4 1/4-inch squares. That's the zinger, okay? But please, at least try it. But if it's too much, too little to hold, then know that you can skip it. But decide if you're going to skip it before you put any glue on it, okay? This here is a frame for our quilt block. So the quilt block is 3.5 inches square. Your frame is going to be 3 3/4. And then a standard 5.5 by 8.5 piece of cardstock, scored at 4 1/4. And we'll give this, we're just going to burnish that score line. Okay. So we'll set these pieces to the side for right now. I'm going to set all of these pieces to the side. Talking about your 3-inch or your 3.5-inch square, which is your template or your grid for your quilt block. Oh, imagine that, I got an extra one. So now I'm going to have to make another card. We can, you know what? Let me bring in, this was a little bit of homework for you, but I can just kind of show you how to do it. So line up, we're drawing a 1-inch border on all 4 sides. So I just moved my square to the 1-inch line. Now this is what I do. I have this OmniGrid ruler. Probably every quilter has this ruler, and you don't need to be a quilter to have it. I really recommend that you get one because it's see-through and because you can see markings at well, you've got 1/4 of an inch, a 1/2 inch, or wait, no, hold it. Here's an 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, a 1/2, 5/8, 3/4, and 7/8. The ruler is exactly 1 inches wide. So you know you have a 1-inch width. What I do is I just line that up with the edge of my cardstock, and I let the bumpers up here on my trimmer keep it in place. And you'll notice that the edge of my ruler follows right along that cutting track. So if you don't want to do the scoring, which sometimes the scoring is hard to see, I line this up like this. Now this side of my ruler is going to be flush with the side of my cardstock. And then I just draw that 1-inch pencil line. I turn it and I repeat it on all 4 sides. Then to get these markings right here, I'm going to move my cardstock over to 1 3/4 inches. And again, I'm just going to put my ruler in, and I'm going to find the 1-inch line on my trimmer to make sure that it's all straight. Oh, there goes my stomach again. I really should eat breakfast. I make sure that the edge of my ruler is following along that line. And then I'm going to draw a line, but I'm not going to go past this big square in the center. So I'm just going to draw a line down to that line and then come down here, and from that pencil line draw down. This way I only have to turn it one more time and repeat. Okay, so that's how you get your grid. That was a little off right there, which I probably should make sure that I pay attention to the true 1 3/4 inch. And why 1 3/4 inch? Because that is half of 3.5 inches. We need to find the middle of each side of our block for this pattern. That's why we put that line in there. You are going to need an eraser. I tried to get the pattern down to where we didn't have to do so much erasing. That's why we're leaving this open with no marks. Also, working with white in small pieces, I suggest you have an adhesive eraser on hand in case you transfer any glue, and it will happen. It happens to me all the time. I always have to clean up my blocks before finishing them. So here is our grid that's going to make our quilt block. Are we ready? Well, you know, Linda, I work on my trimmer a lot. In fact, I'll end up bringing that back in probably and putting my silicone mat on it so I don't get it all gummy, just because, I don't know, for whatever reason, I work on my trimmer a lot. I did treat myself to a new trimmer, but I haven't unboxed it yet because this one is getting, you know, a little worn out. Let's zoom in a little bit. I need to remember to kind of work up high so that you can see what I'm doing. First thing we need to do, we need to cut our 1/2 inch squares diagonally. Now, I just use my snips. I feel that at this point, a 1/2 inch is kind of hard to put in that trimmer, and putting your points in the track, and then when you close the guard, you're basically like covering it all up. There's nothing to hold on to. But I eyeball my pieces, and it's just about cutting these in half. I debated whether I should have had all these cut ahead of time, but you know, this block doesn't take long, and the card that we're making is rather simple, so we've got the time. Now, you'll want to make sure that your snips or scissors, whatever you're using, make sure they're not bent. Make sure that you're getting a nice straight cut. And right now I am cutting my medium 1/2 inch squares, which I need. Oh no, you know what I did? Oh no, I wasn't supposed to cut those. The 5 squares you are not supposed to cut. Oh, Julie. Well, let's bring in our trimmer. We need to cut some 1/2 inch squares. Oh, I am so sorry, you guys. So you're going to cut in half the light and the dark squares. Do not cut your medium ones. And I need 5 of them. So, and I'm going to tell myself to slow down because, well, there's one I saved. We are not in a rush. We are here to learn, to have fun, and I am not going to let this get me all freaked out. I was just so eager to get to this that I didn't even pay attention to the color that I had picked up. So if you are like me and you saw that, oh, that's her medium color, let's start cutting those, I apologize. If you are like me, a lot of times I watch somebody's demonstration and then I go back into it, because then I can see when they make a mistake, it's like, okay, I don't want to do that. Okay, so the 5 medium squares stay square. Oh, Lord. Yes, Pam, you know, it used to really bother me. I took it really personally when I would be doing a demo and I made a mistake. I mean, I would beat myself up. But then I saw other demonstrators, you know, you just own it. And when you've got the grace given to you by those who are watching, it's like, yep, happens all the time, you know, we're no different. Although I do want to not make mistakes when I am giving a demo, because I don't want, then I feel like, oh, I just caused them to waste their paper, or and trust me, with the quilt cards, it's not like we're using up big pieces of paper, right? I mean, these are like, you go in and find your scraps in order to make a quilt block. So it's not all that bad. Now here I'm cutting my dark ones. Now when I get to those 1/4 inch ones, I'm going to bring in something light as a background so that I can see the corners. And you know, like I said, it is a tiny piece, but it really does finish off the quilt block, but you don't have to use it. So I've got 1, 2, where are my other ones? They were all here on my table this morning. Okay, I gotta cut 2 more 1/4 inch squares. It's amazing how things can disappear on your table. Does anybody follow along with Sue Campfield, I think is her name? You got to take a sip of something when you lose something on your table. Oh my goodness. That one is fun. I like to watch her. She is fun. Okay, so here's my 4 1/4 inch squares. And I'm just trying to keep my colors all together up here. So holding this little tiny square, I'm going to bring it down here on the white so that I can see this corner to that corner. And you just do your best. Oops. Oh, that one's a little off. I'm going to cut a different one. I don't want to use that one. I want you to at least try it. And holding this when you're gluing is another thing. A fine tip applicator glue is a good idea to have. If you don't have a fine tip, then just be very careful. You only need a little bit of glue. How many people are already saying, I don't know if I want to do those triangles? Okay. You know, I made the quilt block as large as I could for the card. And looking, okay, I need to give a shout out to the maker of this quilt block. Okay, where's my notes here? Okay, I had pinned this quilt block off of Pinterest. And when you visit the site that it takes you to, it's called Quilting Land. Quilting Land website. Sarah Murray, who does a blog called Anyone Can Quilt, She made this star. It's her favorite star. It's a free quilt pattern. You can go to her blog, and if you are a quilter and you love it in a card, I'm sure you're going to want to make the quilt block. So it's called, if you put in the search bar, Anyone Can Quilt, it should take you to this blog. The pattern is from November 18th of 2008. So I want to give a shout out to Sarah Murray from Anyone Can Quilt. This is her star. It's her favorite star. And like I said, if you are a quilter, if you love what this block looks like, then you are going to want to make it. I think her block is 14.5 inches when you sew it. So taking a 14.5 inch block and taking it down to 3.5 inches, which is about as I couldn't go any further than that to make the pieces bigger to handle. This is why we're at where we're at. Okay. So, Anne says we might hear some language. Trust me, I can relate. Okay, keep your hands clean, okay? First thing that we're going to do. Oh, I forgot my rubber band. I broke my rubber band, so I'm going to just try to tape this thing down. You're going to take the 5 half-inch squares. Going to put a little bit of glue on the back. Don't get too carried away. And we're going to be working on the inside square. So what we're doing is we're going to build a 9 patch inside of our square. So I am going to put, and I'm just going to lightly tap these down. I'm going to work in my 4 corners first, and then I will set my center. Then I will set my center square. And this is the medium value. Okay. Your medium value is in the center of your quilt block. This really does go fast. Okay. So I'm just going to hold it up. I want to make sure that I'm out to my corners there. I also want to make sure that I'm straight across because we have to build on top of these squares. So I want to make sure that I'm straight. And then I'm going to take that last square and I'm going to put it in the center. Sometimes in my cutting, I find that my square's a little big. I make it work. If I have to overlap a little bit, I'm going to overlap. When we go to quilt this, it's going to push everything in place and make it look really fluid. I'm overlapping just on the corners a little bit. What I want to make sure of is that I am straight. Well, at least my adhesive, my glue is staying to the center of my paper. I didn't get it outside, maybe a little, but okay. So you have your 9 patch that's on the inside of your quilt block. Now we're going to take our triangles that are light. Keep your dark ones out of the way. We're working with our triangles that are light. What I want you to pay attention to, we are not setting our triangles out to the edge on top of our 9 patch here. We're moving them to the center. So the corner of your triangle, the reason why we drew that center line is you want it to sit on top and you want the point of your triangle to be near that halfway point. Okay, so when you've got two of your half square triangles sitting on top, it kind of looks like a box with a bow on top. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start putting these down. Again, I'm putting my point near that halfway mark, and then it will sit on top of my old olive. Now, when I make these by myself and I'm not on camera, I cut my squares in half as I go. But I did them, we did them all together so that you could see what I was talking about. So I'm going to sit that on there. And what I'm looking for, I can move this to the center a little bit. What I am looking for is that the white space on either side of my triangles is about even. If they're a little off, and believe me, it can happen because I've got the cards to prove it, you can still finish the quilt pattern. But a good thing just to keep watching is that these are the same width. Okay, so now we'll just keep going around. And in my cutting, I kind of rounded off one of my points, but it's okay. If that looked really wonky, like I really was off cutting it in half diagonally, then I would cut another 1/2 inch square and redo it. You want to make sure you have a nice straight line across here. Again, I'm just kind of looking. It looks like I could slide this one back just a little bit. Again, a lot of times, if it's just not so obvious that it's not right, I go with it. When we get to the quilting part, using an embossing folder, it will just help kind of move everything in where you want it, so to speak. And with the design of the whatever embossing folder that you're using, sometimes maybe that what you see lands in the pattern and it totally disguises it. So again, if it was blatantly obvious that something was not cut right, that's the only time that I'll redo it. So I think that darker line was the one that I wanted to pay attention to when I moved my pencil and my ruler, showing you where to mark. Okay, put that in there. And we'll just move this one over a little bit. Okay, so that's what your quilt block looks like so far. Yes, Holly, that's one of the pluses about embossing. Okay, Pam says she got some 4-ounce bottles from Amazon. Awesome. You know, Betty, math was not my strong point in school. In 9th grade, I took Algebra 1. In our school, when you were considered high school, which was grades 9 through 12, you were required 1 year of math, 1 year of science, and so I took biology, I took Algebra 1, and after 9th grade, I never took another math or science class. Those were not my strong points. I was in business classes, I was in art, I was in home ec, I was doing those other things. So now when I love doing the math now, I love doing the math, figuring out quilt blocks and resizing them. But in school, no way. I was done. So, yeah, I wish I could go back and do it all over again, because now I really enjoy it. So now I'm going to work on my darks. Now, for these triangles, this row here, we brought them in. The next triangles are going to go to the outside. They're going to sit on top. They're going to sit on top of your triangle, but the 90-degree angle side is going to go all the way out to your pencil line. So they're going to sit on top, but we're pushing them out. These we brought in. Now we're just going to go all the way to the pencil line. We're going to sit it right on top of that point. We're using the pencil line to keep us straight. Now, sometimes your the top of your triangle will go all the way to the edge. I eyeball my cutting, so sometimes I find that I didn't cut exactly right, and I might have a short tip. I don't even worry about it. I'm going to come over to this side, and I'm going to do the same thing. Sit on top of the point. Whoops. Make sure you're out to the pencil line. Okay, so that it looks like that. And we're going to do this all the way around. I can't wait to show you my one example, because what this block made me think of when I first saw it, well, not really the first time I saw it, it was when I studied it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like, and I'm not going to tell you. So I had to do a card in those colors. Okay, I want to get that fleck off of there when I clean up my card. Okay. Now this design, and you can see it coming together here with just this right here. This reminded me of a Southwest feel. So can you imagine picking desert colors? This just gave me the feel of the Southwest. So that's another card that I need to make. I know with Stampin' Up, we had some designer series paper that had those Southwest colors, the desert colors. I'll have to look and see if I have any of them. Oh, see this blunt point right here? I'm not real happy with that, but I'm going to go with it. But isn't this a gorgeous pattern? I just fell in love with it once I got it figured out. When I was trying to resize it, because you start, when I was looking at the 9 patch, I made it really difficult in trying to figure it, because these could have gone into 8s or whatever. When I finally figured out, pick a round size that everybody can work with and just build it out and see what the finished block size is. And when it came to 3.5 inches, I thought, this is totally doable. I can't go any bigger than that, because then the block won't fit on the card. I mean, it might have, but you would be pushing it all the way to your limits on your card base. Okay, look at that. You can stop right here. If those little tiny triangles that we're going to work with now, yes, we do use math when we're cutting our cards. I love getting down to 16ths and the 8ths. And I know that that just kind of will make some people like, oh, I don't want to learn those. When it comes to a quilt card, they can make all the difference. That 1/16 can make a big difference on where everything is meeting. So sometimes we have to do it, but once you do it a couple of times, it's no big deal, right? Okay, so now we're going to take these tiny triangles. Okay, let's look at our block. See this rectangle here that is formed from, it's underneath our points on the outside, and it's to the side of our ones on the inside. Our little triangles are going to go right here. So you're going to put the 90-degree angle up here in always in the corner, and then this is going to end up looking almost like an arrow. Okay, so that little tiny triangle. And sometimes if you can see that your rectangles are a little narrower, you can kind of look at your triangles and see that you might want to save one for another place. But I'm going to take that tiny, and I'm just going to put a little bit of glue down. Here I've got my 90-degree corner, and I am going to fit this right underneath and see how it kind of makes like an arrow shape. And we're just gonna go all the way around. This really does finish off this pattern. However, if those pieces are too little, I think it's a stunning block with what you've already done. And when I show you my examples, I'll show you of a different triangle that you could add to your block that would satisfy you wanting to step it up, but not work with such a tiny piece. Okay, so this one here, that one's kind of, well, that's kind of wide. I might want to save this one for over here. Now you're just putting a puzzle together. That one worked better there. Now this one that I was off of, that's a little wider. I'm going to look for a triangle that has a wider base. Remember, we just eyeballed these, so they're not perfect. Oh, that one takes up that space a lot better. See, I was just looking at what would fit where nicely. Now here I've got a tiny one too, so I see that I'm thinking this one's going to work right here. You can use your reverse tweezers if that helps you handle these small pieces. You guys, I still can't get the hang of those tweezers. They're wonderful. They're like having an extra hand, but I just cannot get used to them. And so at this point, I am still just trying to pick up the pieces. Okay, so we're just filling in those white rectangles with our little half square triangles here. And sometimes I have to overlap a point a little bit. Oh, this one slid right underneath it, but that's okay. I'm going to leave it. I want to push this back though, so it looks like a straight line. There we go. And I've just got 2 more to do. And then look at the little arrows that are, again, this just reminds me of a Southwest pattern. I just love her star. And this is our mystery quilt block, you guys. I'm going to show you some options when I show you my examples. And the option I just discovered last night when I was making some more. So that's why I might have included them in the cutting, but it's not part of Sarah's star. And I wanted to make her block. So there is Sarah's star. I don't know if she calls it Sarah's star. I couldn't find an actual name to this block, but it's her favorite. So we're going to call it Sarah's star. And I thought it would be fun to learn it keeping a monochromatic, using monochromatic colors. Now, of course, once you've made it and you feel comfortable with it, then you could change all these colors around. But what I found is when you're placing your colors, you want contrast between each one. So by putting the light colored cardstock in the middle, it's contrasting to the dark and it's contrasting to the medium. However, that's not always a rule of thumb. What if you changed the placement of all of these colors? You know, what would you get? You just need to play. But I think this is very appealing to the eye. The contrast between the colors is very appealing and makes a beautiful block. Okay, so I want to make sure that my glue is dry, because now I need to come in and we need to erase these pencil lines. And you're going to want to get into those nooks and crannies if you can. You also want to be very careful, especially if you are erasing around a dark colored cardstock that is just known to have a lot of dye in it. For instance, Cherry Cobbler, Night of Navy. What are some other ones that you found will bleed if you rub them too hard? Keep that in mind. Sometimes that little bit of a pencil line that you can still see is not the worst thing that can happen. Worst thing that could happen is you smear the color from the cardstock onto your white. Then you've got a problem, because I've got a sand eraser and sometimes that doesn't even help with anything. Now, getting into these little corners, if you just go in one direction, and I can see I've got a little glue residue right here. I'll come back and I'll clean that up with the adhesive eraser. Right now it's all about just cleaning up your block, getting rid of your pencil lines, getting rid of any glue that is transferred where you didn't want it, and we know it happens. I'm surprised I keep my hands as clean as I do when I'm doing a demo, because when I'm up here by myself, I've always got glue on my hands and I just keep going and I transfer a lot of glue. So I got my adhesive eraser. Right here. And again, be very careful with this eraser too. Do not go back and forth. It's a lot easier if you go in one direction. This actually will work as an eraser too. Got some on my soft sea foam that I want to clean up. So at this point, you're just cleaning up your quilt block. Okay, now comes the time that we're going to quilt. And my favorite folder for this block is the Distressed Tile 3D. And I am not debossing, I'm embossing it. So I'm just going to put it in there and I'm going to step away for a second and I'm going to quilt our block. if you don't have the cut and emboss machine or any other die cutting type machine that has the rollers, and a lot of times it's because of price. I know it's what held me back from die cutting was the cost of the machine. And really, Stampin' Up's is comparable to a lot of the other makers out there. You can join, and you can actually put the machine in your kit, and you get it for $99. So, you can save some money there if you just want to, save and get the machine, because the price might be what's holding you back. So there is the quilted block. I just love it. This is my favorite embossing folder right now. Okay, so now we're going to set that aside. I want you to, okay, so we got to make our card. Here's our card base. This is the frame for our quilt block. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my insert on the inside. I'm going to work on the inside and the back of my card. Okay, so there's the inside. I'm going to put, ooh, that's pretty too, but that's not the side that I want. Was this a 2-inch? It was. And I like to get it in the middle. So I'm going to bring it in just 1/8 of an inch, because 2 1/8 is actually half of 4 1/4. So if I'm trying to get it in the middle, I'm going to come in just a little bit. And I really did like the look of this when I was, or no, I did 2 1/8. No, it's too long. Okay, I'll have to trim it off up there. I did like having that little tiny border right there. Now it's too long, so I need to come in and trim this up. Okay, clean that up a little bit. And then I'm going to finish with my button. Remember, in that stamp set, there are so many options to how you can sign the back of your quilt or your quilt card. If you didn't do all of this, you could stamp across the bottom. What was the one thing that said, what was this? Crafted with you in mind. Makes them feel, very special, because it personalizes that it was for them. And I just smeared something on my button. Okay. So there's the back. We got the inside. Now, to do our front, I chose, oh, look what I just found. I found my other little tiny squares. I knew that would happen. Okay. This is a 4x6, but we need 4 by 5 1/4, because we're going to leave a little border around. And what I'm going to do is, I've got 2 sides. I want this side to be the larger portion of my card. And we're going to rip this, just because ripping is fun. Oh boy, you know what? We're to the point now where we don't need to be so close. There we go. We're going to rip just because it's fun. You could cut, but we're going to rip, because we're going to rip and flip. Okay. So this is going to be the bigger portion of my card front. So I'm going to come down here. I'm probably going a third, and I'm just going to rip. You're not even really going to see this rip, but it's just fun. Okay, so I'm going to rip it. I am going to put this on the top part of my card. Leaving a nice even border on the 3 sides. And then I'm going to flip this over, and this is going to overlap. And this is going to be the bottom part of my card. So it really, you're not going to see the rip because our quilt block is so big, but it's just fun. It's just fun to rip up paper. If you've got any aggressions that you want to take out at this time while you're making your card, it might make you feel better. Okay. Just lining that up. Now you could have measured and, you know, cut your 2 pieces true to what they need to be and line them up and all. But like I said, it's fun to rip paper. So there's the front of our card. And now our quilt block, let's get this onto the frame. This is going to have a nice even border on all 4 sides, or close to being even. Okay, so there's our frame. And this is going to sit up towards the top. I am looking for a border on the 3 sides. But here I get the beauty of both sides of the paper, even though this is just a hint. I think it makes a really good backdrop to the block. And so I've been putting messages on the inside of my, of course nobody can see these, right? But what if we did hugs? You got to put glue down. Why not write something really sweet on it? And plus, I really just think it's fun writing in glue. Okay. So there's that. I see something sticking out here. I want to try and get off of there. So we're letting the quilt block be the star of the show. I am not fussing with this too much, other than a sentiment. And what I did was I put some dimensionals. It's going to overlap our quilt block just a little bit, so make sure that you don't put a dimensional where it sits on top of your quilt block. But it's just like, I think I'm just going to put it right there. Yep. And then the only other thing that I am going to do is put some of these low profile dots. We're going to use the gold. And we're going to, the quilt block should be the star of the show. We're just going to put some, around here, and then maybe just put one right there. Just going to put 3 little pieces of bling, and my quilt card is done. So now this could have been a different color of ink. I had stamped a whole bunch of different colors, and it was one that just kept getting pushed to the side and pushed to the side, but I'm like, you know what, I'm going to use it because the pecan pie is in with the colors. It may not be as bright and bold as some of the other inks, but I didn't want it to just keep sitting around. So there is, I'm going to call this Sarah's star. If there is a quilt maker out there who recognizes this and has found that it has, maybe she named it in another place, let me know. But I'm going to call this Sarah's star. And if anybody happens to know this quilter, or you follow her, wouldn't it be nice to send her a card with the quilt block? From 2008, I don't know if I could actually find maybe a current address, but we could like flood Sarah with our cards. You know what? I might try to investigate that. And if I get her address, let's show her how different her block can look like in a card and send her some love. So there's that one. Now I'm going to show you, this was my prototype. That was just my prototype. Those were just 3 colors of scraps I had laying around, and they do play well together. Oh yes, I wanted to, where was that? Who mentioned this? I saw something. Here's something I want to bring to mind. Do you see the hexagon that by adding that little triangle created? Without that little triangle, you don't get the sense of the hexagon. But if you just push your boundaries and do that 1/4 inch half square triangle, you get this hexagon in the center. Okay, so there was my prototype. Now I want to show you, using the same DSP, I used some other colors for my monochromatic choice. Okay, so here I used the yellows, and so I brought out Daffodil Delight, Lemon Lolly, and then I brought in the peach pie, because that all seems to go together. So that's how different it can look if you change the color. And then here's another green one. I just changed the paper. This design here has a pool party background and it has a white. So that was just another green one. And then I decided to, what does it look like if I bring in early espresso, pecan pie, and this other color is crumb cake, I believe, just to bring in another brown. So that's what it looks like in a whole different colorway. Okay. Maybe a hexagon shape for the sentiment would be cool. Yes, it would, bringing that hexy feel down into it. I would love to see that done. That's an idea that you can run with there, Lou Ann, and show us what your card looks like. Okay, so when I was making this star, what I saw was a snowflake. So I saw a snowflake, so I had to pull out the blues. Tony, you're going to love this. So here I worked with, this is actually the Mediterranean Bloom Mediterranean paper. And look at this one page. Doesn't this look like a snowflake in the designer series paper? Well, that's what, as soon as I saw a snowflake in this design, I knew I wasn't sure which designer series paper it was, but I went digging, and it's the Mediterranean because it's got the lemons and the peaches on the other side. So I did this in blues, and then I brought in Smoky Slate. Now here it's got the colors listed. It's the Night of Navy, Balmy Blue, and Boho Blue. But I wanted to bring in another color that spoke snow to me, or snowflakes, so I brought in Smoky Slate, just brought in a gray. And I love both of them. And then I used the snowflake, the falling snowflakes embossing folder to do the quilting. And I lined it up that one of the snowflakes would hit the center. And then I just used our basic rhinestones to give it a little shimmer. The stamp set is from One of a Kind. So the stamp set is One of a Kind. I used the smallest snowflake and just stamped one next to my sentiment, and it just said, sending a flurry of happy wishes. You know, winter's about done here. We're going into spring now. But this could still be a Christmas card. I didn't put any sentiment in, so I'm going to save these. But when I saw a snowflake in the star, I had to go with it. So that's that in the blues. And then I did two using the, what is it? Fruit salad. Now here's the card last night that brought in another triangle to change the look of your quilt card. So there's so many places where you can start and stop and be done. Here's the original. So with the fruit salad, we've got, you know, Poppy Parade or Real Red next to Pool Party is my favorite color combo. So I've got my Pool Party there with my red. And I just used the colors, pulling it from this designer series paper. But then I thought, oh my goodness, all this open white space, that's room for another half square triangle. So I cut a 1-inch square because our area is 1 inch. So I cut a 1-inch square of Pool Party, cut it in half diagonally, and I filled in the corners. So there's another pattern. That just is building our hexagon even more. We got a hexagon here, and now we're working on a bigger hexagon. Okay, I got one more paper to show you. So that's with the fruit salad, and then I just put some sequins that were of fruit colors there. And then I used the toadstool. So the fruit salad is a celebration free item, and so is the toadstool paper. And here I did both with an outside triangle and just did it in two different colorways, working with the colors that are in the designer series paper. Now, Poppy Parade might not have been my first choice for a card base and the frame, but here's what happened. I thought I was pulling Real Red for my bases for the fruit salad and realized they were Poppy Parade, so I'm like, oh crap. So now I got two card bases I'm going to have to use for another card. Well, when I pulled out this paper and saw that it had Poppy Parade in it, I'm like, yay, I've already got my card bases made. And I've already got my frames because I cut the wrong shade of red. But it worked perfectly for the toadstool paper, and now I've got two more cards. So I could not stop last night making these cards. Now here you might see, this is a good example. My medium and my light values were very, very close. Do you see how there's not like a ton of contrast? Actually, when I took the picture, the I think this was Smoky Slate, actually showed as the lighter between the Granny Apple Green. I went ahead and I made it. Even though there isn't strong contrast, the color is in the cards, in the DSP. So I went with it. And even though these two colors are similar, and they don't stand out as much as, you know, one of the other cards we did, I still love the way they turned out. So these are just more examples of working with different designer series paper and color placement. I didn't go with monochromatic here. I started bringing out the other colors that were in the paper. Maybe I should have gone with pumpkin pie, right, of one of these two colors. Maybe I should have brought in pumpkin pie. Here I've got it too. It would have just changed it. You know, maybe I'll just have to make two more cards, because when you're cutting one card base, you're making two card bases. So you might as well make two stars. So that's it, you guys. Oh my goodness, we have run over. This is one of my longer lives. I apologize for that. I thought it was going to go by so much faster, but we'll get back to the cards that we did today. And I'm going to give away some of these cards. So if you want to comment Sarah's star, then I'll pick some winners, and the PDF will land this weekend, and I'll give you all the options, like the cutting instructions for these outside corners. Remember, you don't have to use those little tiny triangles, but they really do. It's what creates the hexagon in the center, but you don't have to do it if they're too small to work with. So please share your cards in our community group that's called Quilt Cards and More. You can find a link to join from my Chirpy Facebook page. There are some join questions that must be answered. But that is where we do all of our sharing, and we're going to see so many ideas. Somebody's going to find another place for a triangle, or they're going to switch some colors around. But that's where we get our inspiration, is over in the group. So thank you for being here with me on this Thursday. I hope you love this block as much as I do. And I look forward to, after lunch, hopping over to the group and see if anybody has posted yet. And enjoy the rest of your week. Have a blessed rest of your day. And we'll be chatting soon. Oh, tomorrow night is Barn Quilt, the February Barn Quilt Kit Together. So if you want to see what the Barn Quilt card kit looks like, you've never done it before, you're kind of curious, join us at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Chirpy Card Maker page, and see what the Barn Quilt card kit is all about. Okay? All right, I'll be talking to everybody soon.